certainly won't sit down with him with these questions still lingering about whether these people are a kangaroo court and a firing squad. Who in his right mind would put their client in front of people like that, whether Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative?
But so you haven't closed the door on talking to Mueller?
Have not closed the door.
Is that still, may I ask you a very pointed question? Are you still negotiating with him?
Yeah.
So in just those 30 seconds, Rudy Giuliani managed to slam the Mueller probe and also provide some, well, quasi-substance. According to Rudy, Trump's attorneys are negotiating for a possible interview with Bob Mueller's team. But when it comes to pardons, Rudy, like originally, whether he's talking or not talking or would or wouldn't with Mueller, once again, he's all over the place. Right after Paul Manafort was sent to jail after being accused of witness tampering, Rudy said that the Mueller investigation could be, quote, cleaned up with some presidential pardons, end quote. But here is Rudy on CNN shortly after he made that statement. Take a listen.
The president has issued no pardons in this investigation. The president is not going to issue pardons in this investigation. And my advice to him, you know, as long as I'm his lawyer, is not to do it, because you just cloud what is becoming now a very clear picture of an extremely unfair investigation with no criminality involved in it of any kind.
So no pardons, don't pardon anybody. Oh, by the way, here, we can clean it all up with some pardons. You follow the bouncing ball. Then there's Trump's long-term fixer here and attorney Michael Cohen. It's being reported that Cohen is telling friends that he's willing to, quote, give up information on Trump. If that is what prosecutors want, I have a feeling they just might be interested. Cohen is also hiring a high-profile defense attorney who used to run the criminal division of the U.S. Attorney's Office in Manhattan. Well, to help us sort this out and more, former Federal Prosecutor Roland Riopelle joins us now. Roland, as always, thank you for the time.
Pleasure to be here, Richard.
I want to ask one question on that fast-moving story today before we get to the developments in the Mueller probe. So the president signs the executive order, but at least to my understanding, it doesn't make this problem go away. Forget about politically, from a practical level. There was a court order, federal court order in 2015 called the Flores decision, where they said you can't keep kids for more than 20 days at a time and detain the child. So the president writes the executive order, but at the same time he says, but I'm going to keep doing the zero tolerance policy on the parents. So you keep the kid and the parent together, but after 20 days, Trump still wants to hold the parents, but by law he can't hold the kids. So once again, we're going to have the same problem. This does not solve the issue, the executive order today. In fact, you can argue it just delays it, and eventually it's going to end up in court. Am I wrong?
No, I think, Richard, you're probably right. This gives Trump 20 days or so of breathing room, and in 20 days we'll run up against this problem again. And this is sort of another illustration of the Trump administration's utter ineptitude and failure to understand the law. It's like the Muslim ban. You know, they keep rewriting that because they can't get it right and do it in a lawful way. And they probably will have to rewrite this as well before they are done, perhaps more than once, if they want to get it right.
Let me get to the Mueller probe, because with all the news, with the family separations, some, I think, substantive headlines went without a lot of attention. Let's first start off with the aforementioned Michael Cohen. He hired a defense attorney by the name of Guy Petrillo. You know this man. Tell the audience a little bit about him and also why he would hire him and most likely what this might signal.
Well, Guy is really a superb lawyer, a very bright guy, a very thoughtful guy. I was lucky enough to work with him and overlap with him during his first tour of duty at the United States Attorney's Office. We were roughly contemporaries. He's a very impressive intellect and a thoughtful person as well. He is a superb choice for someone who wants to defend the case to the bitter end at all costs, but he is an even better choice for someone who is looking to strike some kind of deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office, because he has so significant contacts there and knows how to work that system so well, better than almost anybody else. So he Now, I think the choice of Guy Petrillo signals a desire on the part of Michael Cohen to strike a deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office of some kind, probably a cooperation deal. That's not to say that Guy couldn't defend the case. That's just the signal that is sent, and I would say it has been echoed by Michael Cohen's resignation just an hour or so ago from the Republican National Committee and its Finance Committee. The fact that he's resigned from that indicates that he's now going to be providing evidence about the committee to someone. I think that's what that means.
And theoretically, the stories he can tell. Now, let me go next to Rudy Giuliani. I played some competing sound bites about whether he wanted his client, President Trump, to testify, not to testify. But to me, the most notable soundbite we heard there, or statement, was, this thing could all be cleaned up with a couple pardons. Speaking of Manafort, after he was sent away in an orange jumpsuit. Isn't that obstruction? You're the attorney here, but if you're basically sending a signal to somebody that could be looking at real jail time, don't worry about it, we got a get out of jail free card waiting for you. How's that not?
I do think that is the signal that Mr. Giuliani and Mr. Trump want to try to send with the numerous pardons Mr. Trump is granting and statements like those made by Mr. Giuliani. I think that Mr. Giuliani walked that back because he is afraid that it's possible he might become a focus of investigation himself, because in theory it is possible that the use of the pardon power could be an obstruction of justice. I think that's a long shot. I think more likely, if Trump uses the pardon power to pardon someone who, like Mr. Manafort, for example, if it turns out that he is truly an agent of the Russian government, and there's some reason to think that's where this story might end up, if Mr. Trump were to pardon him, that seems to me it may trigger impeachment proceedings in Congress. Remember, impeachment is a political remedy. It's not really a legal remedy. And if Congress is angry at Mr. Trump, it could bring those proceedings, and a crazy exercise of the pardon power might provoke that.
Finally, Peter Strzok, he was literally escorted out of the FBI. Now, we all agree. He was a moron with some of the stuff that he tweeted, or texted, I should say, to a coworker. But being a moron and being criminal are two different things. He's now said that he's very happy and will be more than willing to testify. Talk about why he may be an important player in all of this.
Well, I think this FBI agent, is kind of, it's crazy what he did. Think of all the people he's investigated for and probably gotten convicted based on the dumb texts and emails they sent, and now he's doing exactly the things that the defendants have done. I think he is a key player because he will be able to testify as to why the various investigative steps were taken in the investigation when he was associated with it, and he will be able to justify those steps. And remember, he's been interviewed by the Inspector General, who has found that the investigative steps taken when Mr. Stroh's and others were at the FBI, none of them were taken improperly or for improper reasons or were unjustified. And that's the important testimony he can give.
And finally, on an unrelated or more macro level, are you ever shocked the amount of even attorneys who put things in the form of texts or emails that they would never let their clients do? It never ceases to amaze me. And it's not just attorneys, but people, Lord knows who should know better, Roland, who just can't seem to do themselves self-damage.
Well, you know what it is, Richard, because I deal with this issue all the time professionally. What it is that email and text messaging has become the equivalent of the water cooler conversation that people have, used to have at the water cooler on a break, and I can't even believe. And the problem is that when you used to have that conversation at the water cooler, there wasn't a record of it. unless the guy you're talking to decided to flip on you. But now, you know, instead of going to the water cooler, people just text and email each other all the time, and they say exactly what they would have said at the water cooler in the old days, and very often it becomes very damning, as this FBI agent has now learned to his detriment and should have known for some time.
Hey, Roland, I always appreciate the time. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to be here, Richard.
And coming up next, we're going to switch gears, but I'm pretty sure you're going to know at least one of my next guests, David Haught. He's become one of the faces of the gun control movement after the tragic school shooting at the high school he attended in Parkland, Florida. Now, the student activist, he has a book out written with his sister, also a fellow student. They join me next to talk about it.